The Foreign Representative of Pakistan.
Thank you, Mr. President. We would like to begin by paying tribute to the extraordinary courage of UN personnel and humanitarian workers who are operating under harrowing conditions in Gaza. Let me thank Madam Jacome for her briefing. We also thank Under-Secretary General Tom Fletcher for his sobering and deeply troubling briefing. This briefing, the statement of Mr. Fletcher, and we must commend him for this, for what he has said, because it could not have been said in more clearer terms. Because it is not just sobering, it is an indictment of the occupying power, its continuing illegal policies and actions of its war crimes and crimes against humanity, of the genocide in process, all with complete impunity and persistent and blatant violations of international law. You rightly said, Mr. Fletcher, that it must be a moment of reflection for this Council, for all of us, whether we shall continue to see this, all of this, happen before our eyes, or will we act urgently and decisively to stop this atrocity. Mr. President, as we convene once again, the suffering of Gaza's people continues unabated. The humanitarian tragedy has reached catastrophic proportions. What we are witnessing is not incidental. It is the systematic destruction of a civilian population, the deliberate use of starvation, the relentless siege, and the targeted and methodical dismantling of humanitarian architecture. This is something that Israel, the occupying power, is doing deliberately and unashamedly, as Mr. Fletcher has put it. After more than 10 weeks of total blockade, indiscriminate bombardment from the air, land, and sea, and an escalation of ground operations, Gaza lies in ruins. Over 2 million people, half of them children, are enduring the unendurable. Aid is blocked, hospitals have collapsed, and families are trapped amid rubble and despair. Famine is no longer looming, it is present. 1 in every 3 children under 2 years of age is acutely malnourished. The Integrated Food Security Phase Classification snapshot released yesterday by WFP presents a grim reality. 470,000 people in Gaza are facing catastrophic hunger, and the entire population is experiencing acute food insecurity. The WFP has exhausted its last food stocks to support hot meals kitchens for families on 25th of April. All 25 WFP-supported bakeries have been shut down as wheat flour and cooking fuel have run out. Over 71,000 children and 17,000 mothers urgently require treatment for acute malnutrition, and 60,000 children need immediate medical care. Attacks on hospitals, aid convoys, humanitarian workers, and UN staff, including the killing of 290 UNRWA personnel, are not isolated violations. They form a pattern of targeted attacks that has dangerously eroded the protection afforded under international humanitarian law. Mr. President, the Geneva Conventions and the binding Security Council resolutions are clear. Resolutions 2175, 2286, and 2730, as well as Articles 18, 23, 33, and 59 of the Fourth Geneva Convention explicitly prohibit starvation of civilians, attacks on medical facilities, obstruction of humanitarian aid, and collective punishment. Yet, we are witnessing the inverse. The politicization and militarization of aid, the weaponization of starvation, and the systematic destruction of humanitarian lifelines. The so-called militarized aid coordination mechanism, which would reduce humanitarian access points from 400 to merely 5 tightly controlled hubs near military installations, undermines and violates the core humanitarian principles of neutrality and impartiality. It risks transforming humanitarian aid into an instrument of coercion and forced displacement. This must be unequivocally rejected. It is totally unacceptable. The humanitarian country team of the occupied Palestinian territory, which brings together around 15 UN entities and over 200 NGOs, has categorically denounced plans by Israeli officials to dismantle the existing aid distribution system, affirming that it contravenes fundamental humanitarian principles and appears designed to reinforce control over life-sustaining items as a pressure tactic as part of a military strategy. Mr. President, I would like to emphasize 4 urgent imperatives here. First, there must be a permanent and unconditional ceasefire. Resolution 2735 must be implemented in full across the occupied Palestinian territory, including the West Bank. Ceasefire is not just a precondition for aid, it is a precondition for life. Second, the blockade imposed since 2nd of March must be lifted. Humanitarian access is not a favor. It is a legal obligation. Aid convoys and medical teams must be protected and allowed to operate freely and safely. The normalization of starvation as a weapon of war is a crime. Collective punishment must end, and there must be accountability. The Gaza reconstruction plan must be fully and actively supported, and no forced displacement of Gazans must be tolerated. Third, UNRWA must be allowed to operate without obstruction. Its forced exclusion violates both the neutrality of humanitarian assistance and the provisions of international humanitarian law, as well as multiple UN resolutions. Fourth, this Council must address the root cause, the prolonged occupation of Palestinian territory. The humanitarian crisis is a symptom of symptomatic political injustice. The only viable peace, the path to peace, lies in a just resolution of the Palestinian question based on the two-state solution along the pre-1967 borders, with Al-Quds al-Sharif as the capital of a sovereign and independent Palestinian state. In this regard, Pakistan supports the upcoming June conference to be co-chaired by France and Saudi Arabia. This conference must yield a credible, time-bound roadmap for Palestinian statehood, the protection of holy sites, and reversal of illegal settlement activity. Mr. President, the people of Gaza have endured unimaginable suffering. They deserve to live in peace, with dignity, and to exercise their inalienable right to self-determination. This Council must rise to its responsibility to uphold its own resolutions, to end the occupation, and act with urgency to bring the long-awaited justice to the people of Palestine. The entire world is watching. The Palestinian people are watching. The children, the babies, deprived of food and safety, might be wondering what is happening around them. Who was supposed to come to their rescue? We, this Council, and those most responsible are being judged and will be judged in posterity. Let us come together and act united in the interest of peace and for the sake of humanity. I thank you.
I thank the Parliament representative of Pakistan for his statement.